But now we don't have a base. Customary courts are not favorable for the women. يعني حتى الناس المتعلمين زمن قاعد يتغير يعني. So في مساوئ كتير بواجهوا تحديات.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio, your eye on South Sudan. Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good afternoon. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said a group of African countries support a proposal for the African Union Commission chairperson to appoint a former head of state to mediate dialogue among signatories to South Sudan's 2018 peace agreement. A senior United Nations official has said that harmful cultural practices, poverty and community inaction are contributing to child neglect and recruitment into armed groups in South Sudan. And the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, Onyoti Adigo Nyekwach, has called for the introduction of taxes on cattle and other livestock to help generate revenue for the government. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lasuba Memo. And now the news in detail. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has said a group of African countries support a proposal for the African Union Commission chairperson to appoint a former head of state to mediate dialogue among signatories to South Sudan's 2018 peace agreement. President Ramaphosa made the remarks during a high-level C5 meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, which brought together representatives from South Africa, Algeria, Chad, Nigeria, Rwanda, Djibouti, Kenya, as well as the Intergovernmental Authority on Development and the United Nations. He said the C5 stands ready to support mediation, to monitor implementation, and to coordinate efforts. Ramaphosa said that the coming months are critical, adding that decisions taken during this period will determine whether South Sudan advances toward durable peace or falls back into a cycle of instability. He underscored the need for an inclusive process that ensures free, fair and credible elections and delivers sustainable peace for the people of South Sudan. The South African head of state added that the involvement of the C5 and IGAD will be vital in tracking progress and reporting back to the heads of state.
The C5 supports the proposal that the chairperson of the AU Commission should appoint a former head of state to mediate amongst the signatory parties to the revitalization agreement and to facilitate dialogue amongst all parties. We stand ready to support mediation, to monitor implementation, and to coordinate our efforts. A focused oversight mechanism involving the C5 and IGAD will really help to track progress and report back to the heads of state. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the choices made in the coming months will determine whether South Sudan moves towards a durable peace or back into the cycles of instability. We need to act with urgency. We also need to act with courage and unity. Let us use this summit to foster a process that delivers inclusive dialogue, free, fair and credible elections, and sustainable peace for the people of South Sudan. We should, as we do all this, be able to listen to what the people of South Sudan themselves have to say.
Meanwhile, President Salva Kiir has reaffirmed the government's commitment to inclusive dialogue with opposition groups during a high-level C5 meeting in Addis Ababa, where he stressed the need for a unified approach ahead of the December 2026 general elections. Representatives from South Africa, Algeria, Chad, Nigeria, Rwanda, Djibouti and Kenya, as well as the Intergovernmental Authority on Development and the United Nations attended the meeting under the C5 framework. Participants emphasized that credible elections must be preceded by inclusive political dialogue. The meeting, held on Sunday on the sideline of the African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, brought together peace guarantors to assess South Sudan's political situation ahead of the planned elections. According to a statement from the Office of the President, the session was attended by President Kiir and presided over by Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. Minister of Cabinet Affairs Martin Lumoro said inclusive participation in the dialogue process was essential, including engagement with political and armed groups that did not sign the revitalized peace agreement. Leaders at the meeting reaffirmed their support for South Sudan's transition toward democracy, saying the process should be anchored in reconciliation, solidarity, and the rule of law. A senior United Nations official has said that harmful cultural practices, poverty, and community inaction are contributing to child neglect and recruitment into armed groups in South Sudan. Mikikra Erasmus, a child protection officer with the United Nations mission in South Sudan, spoke during the commemoration of the International Red Hand Day. The annual event aimed at raising awareness about the plight of children in armed conflict and advocating for their protection. Erasmus highlighted multiple marriages as a key factor behind the neglect of children. In South Sudan, families with many children often struggle to meet basic needs, including education and health care. He emphasized that the transitional constitution of South Sudan prohibits cultural practices that are harmful or inconsistent with national law. Erasmus has urged families to live within their means to ensure children are properly cared for. Children in cattle camps were another concern raised by Erasmus. Many of these children, he said, remain out of school and are exposed to violence and firearms from a young age. He warned that such circumstances make them vulnerable to recruitment by armed groups, including the South Sudan's People Defense Forces and the SPLA-IU.
One of the areas we do not touch, and I was expecting you to touch, is multiple marriage make a lot of children. And when the children, their parents are not having money any longer like yesterday to take care of them. But I have about 50 wives. Now I leave the children to move. You are looking at fathers not having money to take their children to school. Why are they not having money? So long as we're able to bring them to this world, it means that you should be able to take care of them. The other thing I've seen is cattle camps. Yes, true. There are so many children suffering in the cattle camps. They are supposed to be in school. Future of this state, future of Baragazal, future of South Sudan are those children that are in the cattle camp. They know how to use the gun. If you go to the torch, they are all having guns. So it's easy for such a child to get closer to SSPDF and start playing with a gun in the SSPDF or IO. The next time you see him in uniform, the next time you see him carrying gun.
Erasmus stressed that child protection is a collective responsibility. He called on community leaders, including chiefs and elders, to take an active role in preventing child recruitment and ensuring that children attend school rather than being drawn into military or unsafe environments. Drawing on his 14 years of experience working with children across South Sudan, Erasmus said denying the presence of child recruitment only undermines the government and harms the country's future. He urged communities to recognize and act on the risk rather than assuming children are not being affected.
So let's respect those children and let's respect their rights and make sure we don't recruit them. We don't make assumption that they are not there. They are there. When I started my speech, I said I was here for 21 years. I've seen it all. I've worked with children for the past 14 years. I go to every barracks in Baragazal and other places that I've worked. We see them every day. We continue denying, and we are doing harm to the government. We are doing harm to South Sudan.
This is iRadio News. The Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, Onyoti Adigo-Nyikwach, has called for the introduction of taxes on cattle and other livestock to help generate revenue for the government. Minister Onyoti made the proposal during the hearing of the 2025-2026 national budget last week. He said the country's estimated 36 million head of cattle could become a major source of income if properly regulated and taxed. He said despite a large livestock population, the country is not benefiting adequately from the sector, even though the government continues to provide services such as vaccination, treatment and security.
This morning I was out in the vaccination camp with some Europeans, some embassies. We are launching vaccination campaign for our livestock. So we need to do it. But sometimes our livestock, what are we benefiting from? I'm working very hard that these livestock should be taxed also, so that the government get money from it. We have 36 million livestock, and then we are not benefiting, and we are giving services like vaccination, like treatment, security, all these things are provided by the government, and we are not benefiting from it, with the exception the local government, which is taking, Gabana, the local government, the commissioners. And it doesn't go to the state even. So we need to think, how do we come out from this scenario which we are now?
The minister stressed the need to move livestock keeping beyond cultural and prestige practices and turn it into a fully commercial sector that can contribute meaningfully to the national economy.
You know, when I said this yesterday, was told to me by somebody that a bull is costing $20,000 is for prestige, according to them. Because this big bull, he would like to put it to the merit of his son. I don't know how far it is true. I asked the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, this is not commercialization of livestock. No, this is only for prestige. But we need to work hard to improve this livestock house, not to be for marriages or prestige. We have to commercialize it so that we improve our economy.
Minister Onyoti said that reforming the livestock sector could boost domestic revenue and reduce the country's dependence on external support. The Minister of Youth and Sports has raised concerns over the low budget allocated to her ministry, warning that it could slow down the implementation of youth empowerment programs across the country. Minister Mary Nawai Martin expressed her concerns while briefing the Parliamentary Committee on Sport and Youth on the ministry's budget allocation on Friday. She noted that the current funding is insufficient to effectively support programs aimed at strengthening the youth and sports sector and empowering young people nationwide. The minister said the ministry has a wide range of planned activities, particularly in the capacity building for young people. She said growing challenges such as drug abuse and idleness among the youth, stressing the urgent need for intervention. Speaking to the state-run DVSSPC, the minister further called for increased financial support to enable the ministry effectively implement programs that address drug abuse, promote skills development, and strengthen youth participation in peace-building initiatives.
We have a lot of activities for the youth. In terms of capacity building, everyone knows that there is drug addiction among the youth. There's idleness among the youth. So we really need to build the capacity of the youth in terms of talking to them concerning the impact of drugs on them, the disadvantages, and also we need to build their capacities in different skills like peace building.
Before international news, South Sudan has signed a formal agreement establishing the Djibouti-Ethiopia-South Sudan-Uganda Corridor Authority, a move officials say is a major step toward strengthening regional integration and expanding the country's access to international markets. The agreement was signed on Saturday in Djibouti by Minister of Transport Rizik Zakaria Hassan, accompanied by Undersecretary Paul Delgum. Abbreviated as DESU, the corridor is described as a strategic multimodal transport initiative designed to streamline logistics, lower transit costs, and enhance connectivity among the 4 member states that include Djibouti, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Uganda. It is expected to provide South Sudan with improved access to global trade routes through the port of Djibouti. Under the agreement, the 4 countries will establish a unified regulatory framework to coordinate transport and trade policies. The deal also provides for joint investment in road, rail, and digital infrastructure linking the member states. Officials said the corridor will reduce trade barriers and facilitate seamless movement of goods and services across East Africa, while positioning South Sudan as a key transit and trading hub in the region. The signing ceremony followed bilateral talks between the South Sudan delegation and Abubakar Omar Hadi, chairman of the Djibouti Ports and Free Zones Authority. This is our radio news, and now to the international scene. Here is Decode Andrew.
And for the international news, gunmen on motorcycles have killed dozens of people in dawn raids across the villages in northwestern Nigeria. Armed men shot locals dead, set home allied, and abducted a known number of people in Niger State. Musa Saido, head of the State Emergency Management Agency, told the BBC the attacks on Saturday morning occurred near the site of a suspected jihadist massacre early this month, in which more than 100 people were killed in a similar ambush. Elsewhere, the 39th ordinary session of the African Union has concluded in Addis Ababa, with Burundi President Evrost elected as the chairperson of the African Union for 2026. The summit held at the African Union headquarters brought together African heads of state and government for the 4 days two of highly level discussion on peace, security, governance, and development across the continent. President Nadiobe takes us from Angola President João Manuel, who served as an African Union chairperson for 2025. Leaders expressed concern over ongoing conflict, terrorism, and unconstitutional changes of government in parts of Africa, reforming their commitment to silence the gun and strengthening support for the AU-led peace operation. The Assembly also launched the AU theme of this year, 2026, ensuring sustainability, water availability, and safe sanitation system to achieve the goals of the Agenda 2063. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the U.S. must require Iran to relinquish all its enriched uranium to be buried from enriching war as part of any nuclear deal with Tehran. In a speech in Jerusalem on Sunday, he outlined several conditions including that all enriched material has to leave Iran.
Apologies for the technical glitch. This is iRadio News, and now we move to the world of sports. Here is Darlington Moses. Good afternoon, Darlington.
Thank you so much, Lasuba Memo. In the world of sport, we start with home news, where Qatar FC secured an emphatic 4-0 victory over Wajuma Awil in March week 17 of the South Sudan Premier League. The victory makes them climb to 36 points in their place. The performance reflected clear tactical maturity and a well-organized playing system in terms of pressing, build-up, and transitions. Qatar displayed a completely different approach compared to the previous defeat against Al Hilal Wow, dominating the match from the opening minutes with a defensive and also a disciplined intelligence off-ball movement, which allowed them to control the tempo throughout the game. The victory helps Qatar recover from the recent setback, which had widened the gap between them and the league leaders, Al Marik Bedu and Jammus SC in the title race. Meanwhile, in today's Ba'el Khazal derby, Khazala Wow, boosted by the victory in the 16th week, face Al Salam Awil, who are determined to reclaim 10th place in the standings. Anthony Edwards was named Most Valuable Player of the NBA All-Star Game as the USA Stars beat the USA Strips 47-21. The Minnesota Timberwolves guard scored 32 points and added 9 rebounds and 3 assists to claim the Kobe Bryant Trophy. In the 75th editions of the NBA All-Star Game, there was a change from the transitional Eastern Conference against Western Conference format. A new round-robin tournament consisted of 4 12-minute games between two sides from the United States, one filled with young players and the other with veteran stars, and one group of international players. Edwards, 24, along with Oklahoma City Thunder's Chet Holmgren, each scored 8 points as the Stars dominated the championship, and while teammate Tyrese Maxey of Philadelphia 76ers scored 9. And finally, Rini Rikis, the daughter of former World Indoor Champions John Rikis, announced her arrival on the national stage with her first senior British title in the women's 200 meter at the UK Athletics Indoor Championships in Birmingham. The 20-year-old took victory in 22.95 seconds and was presented with the gold medal by the father in what she described as a really nice moment. John Rikis won the World Indoor 200-meter title in 1989 and went on to win World Outdoor Silver at 200-meter as well as an Outdoor European title, while Rini's mother, Jennifer Stute, won 4x400-meter bronze at the 1992 Olympics. Rini was asked what role her parents had played in helping her to prepare for the championships, where she clocked 23.22, the year's best time by a UK athlete in the heat, and then a championship record 22.89 in the semi-finals. This is all in the world of sport, and back to you, Lasuba Memo.
Thank you, Darlington Moses. You're listening to iRadio. And to end this bulletin, here is a recap of the headlines. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said a group of African countries support a proposal for the African Union Commission chairperson to appoint a former head of state to mediate dialogue among signatories to South Sudan's 2018 peace agreement. A senior United Nations official has said that harmful cultural practices, poverty and community inaction are contributing to child neglect and recruitment into armed groups in South Sudan. And the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, Onyotia Digonyi Koaj, has called for the introduction of taxes on cattle and other livestock to help generate revenue for the government. That's the end of iRadio Afternoon News. If there is a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +211 925 287 870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for news in Arabic at 1:30.